That's not half bad. I don't really have any other option. Okay. The Arab-Israeli conflict, to my understanding, as it is taught to me in high school education system, which may or may not be flawed, however some people see it, considering it's so controversial nowadays. But to my understanding, all the stuff that I learned in high school education, based on the origins and like all the good stuff in history that happened to cause what is now the modern day Arab Israeli, or more modern day Arab, or no, Israel and Palestine type of conflict. But we learn it in school as the Arab-Israeli conflict because that's like more like general and more encompassing the bigger picture of the conflict. But I tried to recap this like 5 weeks ago and it took way too long, so I'm gonna do a speedrun version this time where I don't go over every single war because that takes 500 years, and if I'm being honest, they're not necessarily that important if you just know that they happened and not all the finer details. But to be honest, to give a preview of my overall opinion, because everyone has to have an opinion nowadays because it's such a controversial topic, I'd say after everything I learned in high school, in the class, I would say I'm pro-Palestinian but not pro-Hamas, because that, in my opinion, that's like the most logical form of a side to take in the issue. But I'll rationalize it with everything I learned in class. So basically, we learned that 2,000 years ago, the Jews were living in what is modern day Israel, that area, and then the Romans came in. This is like 73 CE. Then the Romans come in, they persecute the Jews, and then the Jews get sent out in what is known as the diaspora. The Jews get spread across the country, or not the country, literally the world. They're scattered, permanently scattered, not permanently scattered. They get scattered, they get sent everywhere, and basically everywhere they go, they're the minority. They're the bullied small group of persecuted people they got kicked out of their homeland by the Romans, and then now they're just that small group that has no home. So the Jews got kicked out of their home, and then after that, the Palestinians at some point came in, and the Palestinians were inhabiting that land. So Jews got kicked out, Palestinians came in at some point, and now the Palestinians live there. But the Jews did not just leave and then re-inhabit somewhere else. They have just been scattered the entire time, all over across the world, or what was the known world back then. Scattered everywhere, no real home. They're always the minority. They're always getting bullied a little bit. Biggest thing in history so far of them getting like absolutely crapped on is obviously the Holocaust. That happened to them, and then after that, it obviously starts a movement, or not obviously, but a movement started called Zionism. It's an ongoing movement, but it ramped up after the Holocaust when it was basically Jewish nationalism. Jewish people wanted a country again to unite and kind of like keep themselves protected, because after the Holocaust you kind of want to protect yourself to not get absolutely murdered at any point in time. So the Jews, Zionism starts, which is the movement to make a Jewish state. The Jews say, let's go to Israel, that's our old home, that's where we belong, before the Romans persecuted us 2,000 years ago, and we've been bullied all this time. So the Jews start mass migrating to what is now modern day Israel. But back as the movement was happening, as Jews flooded to what is that area of like Israel, it was actually Palestine, because Palestine is the country that inhabited that land that they wanted to occupy. So a bunch of Jews started flooding into Palestine. The Palestinians don't necessarily like this, because if you get a bunch of people flooding into your home, that's kind of an issue, so that's not really convenient. But that was just that was a small rising issue. It wasn't really a big deal until at some point in World War I or World War II, I can't remember, but the British made a deal at some point. I don't recall the entire details, but the British made a deal with the Jews and the Palestinians and told them both, if they win the war and cooperated and the British won the war, then the British would give the Palestinians and the Jews that piece of land. Except the British double-crossed both of them and told them both that they would get that same piece of land, which is impossible because you can't promise two people like the same cupcake, only one of them gets the cupcake. So the British promised both of them the same plot of land, which is problematic because when the British do win the war and the British do get the land after it was either World War I or World War II, I think it was World War I, they get the mandates or something, they get the mandate of that area, which is basically they get the ownership of that area. They don't know what to do with that area anymore because they promised both of the people of the land. So they run, apparently. They run and then they let the UN handle it. So then the UN swoops in and they make the UN partition plan, which is, we're going to split part of Palestine and make Israel and Palestine, and you're going to split it up into a nice looking map that looks really weird for some reason. If you look up UN partition plan, it's not a clean line. It's like island here, peace, 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 peace. It's obviously, I'm assuming it corresponds to like population density of like, this is probably where a lot of Palestinian people live, and this is probably where a lot of Jews live, so let's make that area Jewish. let's make that area Israel, make this area Palestine, because that's where those people live. But the map just looks really weird if you look up UN partition plan. It's just not a very clean map. But they made the UN partition plan. Israel officially becomes a state after that because the Jewish people who went into Palestine get their country. So Palestine kind of gets the short end of the stick there, meaning they were an entire plot of land. They had that entire piece of land and it was their country. And then the Jews come in, they stay for a while, and then suddenly the UN says, oh, actually these Jews actually have their own country now. So the Palestinians went from having the whole country to having half their country, and the other half is now Israel. So day after Israel is created as a country, the Palestinians, along with other Arab countries in the area, they don't like this. They see the creation of Israel as like the Western powers coming back, taking their land again. Like, hey, we've done this before. We've experienced this in the past. We don't like Western powers coming in and taking our land. We're not going to deal with this. So Palestine, along with other Arab countries, declare war on Israel literally day after it's created, I'm pretty sure. So that happens, and it's a war. So it's Israel versus Arab surrounding countries. Now, you'd expect several Arab countries coming together against a small piece of Israel that the Arab countries would win. They don't win. Israel wins against several Arab countries somehow. The story our teacher explained was Israel, because they're made of Jews and Jews have been bullied across time, they care a lot about their military because they don't want to be bullied anymore. So Israel obviously has one bolstered heck of a military. So they battle back against these several Arab countries despite being an absolute a small piece of land. How does that small piece of land fight back against several Arab countries and win? I have no clue. I guess they just really care about their military. So they win. They not only win, they actually take land back. They go past the UN partition plan. They take past their borders. They take part of Palestine. So Palestine is now getting an even shorter end of the stick where they had their whole country. They got kind of split in half. They declared war, and then they got split even more. So now Palestine is really small. Israel took more land. Israel took more land from other Arab areas as well. Israel just got the good deal overall because, when Arab countries declare war on them, they're obviously going to take land back, and then now they're even bigger than before. So that's like the initial war. After that, there's several more wars that I can't be bothered remembering them all, but I just know Israel wins literally every single one of them. That's all I need to remember. Some of them was started by the Arab countries because they were salty and they were like, hey, how did we let Israel win? Why is Israel winning? Let's try again. And they try to attack Israel again. Israel wins. Israel's military is godly. Sometimes Israel attacks the Arab countries and they win, like usual, because they have the godly military. Then the other Arab countries attack back. Another one, they lose because Israel's godly military. So Israel is always just winning these wars. They just, like, every single time an Arab country attacks, Israel's like, nah, we're going to attack back. And not only that, we're going to take more land while we're at it. So they take land, win war, until eventually Palestine literally doesn't exist anymore. And to my understanding, our teacher said Palestine now, as of today, is no longer a country because Israel won so many wars and took so much land that literal Palestine got wiped off the map. So that happened. Any other places that Israel took across the map, most of the places that they got returned, I'm pretty sure they invaded Egypt and then they gave it back because they were like, we're not going to be like the weird people who are conquering, like imperializing everyone again. But they conquered a bunch of places, they gave a lot of places back, but they took Palestine and then they didn't really give Palestine back. So Israel now inhibits the entirety of what was Palestine, and Palestine is no longer a country. So that is an issue. Now, what happens after that? Palestine, after losing their entire country, is obviously, reasonably upset that they literally don't have a country. Like my teacher said, they're literally like nationally homeless, as she likes to say it. But they don't have a country anymore, so that's not going well for them. They make an organization, like it was the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization or something. That was like a minor movement, minor meaning they didn't resort to terrorism that much, but they were still somewhat terroristic acting. But it was a movement to try to get Palestine back. It didn't work, so then Hamas came in. Hamas is like PLO on steroids. They do terrorist stuff instead. At least that's the way it's explained to me. People nowadays have different opinions, but that's the way it's explained to me. Hamas is literally just a terrorist organization. They want Palestine back, and to my understanding, Palestine doesn't want a piece of Palestine back. They want Palestine back, Palestine pre-Israel back. So they want the entirety of Palestine back, meaning they want to completely wipe off Israel and just take that entire land that they had before back to themselves as Palestine. Now, that's not like an unreasonable request, because they did technically own all the land before Jewish people mass migrated into that area, but it would also mean just mass like what another diaspora, just like another mass like spreading of the Jews or eviction of the Jews from literally the exact same piece of land. That's like a second version of like the Romans persecuting the Jews. So obviously it's unrealistic for Hamas to ask for the entirety of Palestine back. But anyways, Hamas is created. Israel is still taking up the entirety of what was Palestine. Palestine is still not a real country anymore. Palestinians are nationally homeless. Just little movements come up here and there. The intifadas, they're just like giant movements of like Palestinian nationalists trying to get they just like do movements and do violence on the streets to get their country back, because you try like, non-violence, and if that doesn't work, you try violence, and if that doesn't work, you're kind of just not feeling anything, and you do even more violence like Hamas, and then you like everything just goes like to crap. But there have been several attempts at peace supposedly, but it doesn't work out because national or heavy radical nationalists on both sides don't like each other. So whenever a president tries to make peace, they get assassinated. I think an Israel president got assassinated. I think a Palestinian representative probably also got assassinated. I just heard that a lot of people got assassinated. If you try to make peace, it doesn't actually work out. U.S. presidents have tried their best to step in and make peace. My teacher showed us like several photos of prior U.S. presidents, each of them coming in trying to make peace. It was like I saw like Bill Clinton on there, like Obama. I think Trump was on there. Literally just a bunch of presidents ranging from that time period back in the 1900s all the way up to modern day. Literally like Obama. Joe Biden's not in there because who knows if Joe Biden did anything. I don't know if he's awake anymore. But that all happened. Now the reason why I say I'm pro-Palestinian and not pro-Hamas is, if you think about it, Palestine was a country before the Zionism really took off and all that, and Jewish people started mass flooding into Palestine. But Palestine used to be a country, right? So because of the Zionist movement and Israel becoming a country and then all the wars that followed, Palestine is no longer a country. Now, there's obviously a lot of like finicky parts along the way that's like, oh, it's their fault, or something like, oh, they attacked Israel. But at the same time, Palestine was a country and now it's literally not a country. So that's, in no world does that seem in any way right. So I'm not saying I can offer any solutions, because if the brightest minds in the world right now, the brightest presidents, the brightest movements, the brightest people, not the brightest people, I wouldn't say those college campus riots are anything good, but if the political people right now can't do anything about it, I'm assuming that I can't do anything about it, most likely. But I mean, obviously an attempt at peace, like the two-state solution, to say like, oh, just give Palestine their land back, or give Palestine a part of their land back, let Israel keep whatever Israel is, and then, that's the two-state solution. That's two states created again. That's obviously a very desired hypothetical, but it just doesn't happen because I'm assuming people don't agree with it. Nationalists on both sides just don't agree or collaborate with the other side at all. They both just wish for the entire wipeout of the other side. Obviously, there's different people who are different levels of radical. Some people want, some Palestinians want the entirety of Palestine back, which is why they support Hamas. Some of them only want part of it back. They want the two-state solution. It depends on who you ask, which is also a big issue, because when you try to do operations in the area, you don't know who's who. You don't know if some guy wants to bomb you or if some guy's actually willing to cooperate. I'm assuming that's why the whole operation and stuff over there is probably difficult, just like the Vietnam thing when you couldn't tell who's on your side and who's not. It's just a really complicated issue overall. But I think it's, in my opinion, from the evidence and the information that I've been taught, I think it's logical to say that Palestine should get their country back, but to what extent is up to the people, I guess, and how they do that is also up to the people. I'm assuming right now the only thing stopping them is the extreme radicalism on both sides that's preventing them from making a two-state solution. I haven't really looked into it, but on the surface, based off everything I've learned, that's just like what I understand. Pro-Palestine, not pro-Hamas, because Hamas just wants to take the entirety of Israel back, which is not really reasonable, because then you would have to completely get rid of the Jews in the area. So that's kind of not really a real solution. So two-state solution, obviously, that's the most common sense solution anyone can make, because both countries kind of win, basically. It's the best type of scenario you can get at this point. But I'm sure my brother could come up with plenty of reasons to prove me wrong and why I'm like stupid or something, because he always summoned that argument point out of thin air like some weird freak. But that is my understanding of the situation. Obviously, October 7th, what was that? When Hamas came in and killed a bunch of Israel people, and then that all happened, and modern day, the riots in college. It's all garbage now. But to my understanding, that is everything that's happened. The whole Israel-Palestine is just like a thing that sprouted back all the way 2,000 years ago when the Jews got persecuted by the Romans, and now the Jews need to find their home. Boom, Israel, and then Palestine, and then that doesn't really work because it's the same piece of land. They can't really do that. So that's my understanding. Israel versus Palestine. I think Palestine kind of deserves their country back, because it's kind of messed up that they had a country, people flooded in, they don't have a country anymore. That's just the way I see it. But that's my opinion. I'm sure some weird radical people can tell me I'm wrong. Some other radical people can tell me I'm so right. Who knows? Different people, different areas, different opinions anywhere I go. But that's my understanding, and that's about all I can. This was slightly shorter than before, so I'll take a W. And I had to wear this amazing suit, by the way. Feeling quite presidential, but yeah, that's about it.